In this presentation, I want to talk about the distance that honeybees fly. When we set up apiary sites, it's really common, and I have to confess I do the same thing, is I look around in the immediate vicinity to see what there is for bees to forage on. And what I'm doing is forgetting that bees have this very large flight area. You can actually train bees, and when I say training is you can take a dish of sugar syrup, put it at the entrance of a hive, and once the bees get used to feeding on it, you can move it further and further away. And Carl Frisch, who won a Nobel Prize for his bee work, managed to shift the feeding station for up to 10 kilometers away, and the bees will still fly to the feeding station back to the hive again. And there is a theoretical distance, which is that they don't ever make anything positive. They have to use up all the fuel they're collecting to get back to their hive, but they can go really large distances. And when we were working in clover fields in the South Island for a pollination project, we were marking a whole lot of bees in the field. And that evening a beekeeper rang us up and said, look, I've got all these marked bees in our hives. And when we measured it, it was 5 kilometers away. So the bees from his hive were flying over some clover fields to our clover field, 5 kilometers away, getting marked and flying back. And if you work out a 5 kilometer distance, that means a colony, like colonies here, have a foraging area of about 70 square kilometers, which is really a massive area. Overseas in England, they did a similar sort of thing, and they found a 6 kilometers, which makes it an even larger foraging area. So what you see around the apiary, as far as shelter is useful, but the food, you have to be looking at a much, much wider distance than what you can see by just standing at the apiary. And that's why we have to be very careful about moving hives. Some of these bees, if we move them to a site, say 1 or 2 kilometers away, some of the bees from here will already know that site, and the first thing you do when you bring the hives and put them down there is to say, oh, I know where we are, and fly back to the original site. That's why we have to be it's really important to move them at least 3 kilometers away, so that most of the bees won't come back to the original site. So, as I said, to start off with, these bees have these very massive foraging areas, and it's something we must always remember when siting sites.